Good afternoon and welcome to EDU 3040 week 3. This is a big week because we are going to start writing the lesson plans. So we'll get right to it. Week 3 is your very first lesson plan and it's going to be on vocabulary. So everything in this lesson plan needs to be specific to the vocabulary. So hopefully you have been looking around in the Moodle site, and up here at the top under resources, course resources, you're going to find the text for the lesson plans. So when you open the text, it's going to look like this. It's a 5th grade text. It is a nonfiction text, and you will be writing the lesson plans based off just lesson 1. So all 5 lesson plans that you're going to write are going to be based off lesson 1. Now I know this is a big file, it's 36 pages long, and it contains lesson 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, but all 5 lesson plans are going to be based off just lesson 1. So that's the text we're going to use. I also have posted under course resources are the standards that you're going to need. So this is a 5th grade text, so when you are looking for a social studies standard, make sure that you're scrolling all the way down to the 5th grade section. And select an appropriate standard that emphasizes the information that you're going to be teaching in this section. So it starts right here. I believe it's on page 16. So you're going to scroll through here. I would find 1, maybe 2 standards that fit the text. Now the social studies standards are going to stay the same for all 5 lesson plans. You will not need to change the standards for social studies because you're not changing the text. So the text is going to stay the same, and so will the social studies standards. You're also going to need to select a reading standard because remember, this is teaching reading in another content area. So for this lesson plan, you are to select a vocabulary standard. And remember, we learned in EDU 3010 that the RI stands for reading information. So the reading standards that you pick for this course will need to start with RI because it's a reading informational text. This week is vocabulary, so this one right here would be a good one for vocabulary. Now, the difference with the language arts standard is that it will change with each lesson plan because the reading skill that you're teaching is changing with each lesson plan. So, remember, social studies standard will stay the same for all 5 lesson plans. The reading standard will change. And we are using this text. It's all listed in course resources, and you're basing everything off lesson 1. Hopefully that will help with that part. So let's go down to the lesson plan itself. You should have been introduced to this lesson plan in EDU 3010. If you were with me, I know you did. So here is where you're going to list the social studies standard you've selected and the reading standard. This section right here, this site is not working. So if you will go back to the Moodle site, down here I have a file called ESOL Performance Standards. If you will open it, they are all listed here. You can copy and paste the standards that will match the vocabulary that we're going to be working on. Accommodations. Alright, accommodations. This is also something that we did in EDU 3010. If you go back or think back to the unit plan, you had to complete this section of the unit template and its accommodations. So you need accommodations for the ESC students, the gifted, and the ESOL. When you're doing the ESOL, remember there are the 5 different sections of accommodations for ESOL, and they must be listed in the lesson plan. So, talking about accommodations, okay, do not have ESE students work with a higher level student. That is taxing on the other students, and it's just not appropriate. So when you are looking at accommodations, please make them specific for each lesson plan. So accommodations, this is a big section. The purpose statement, this is the purpose of the lesson plan. Why are you writing this lesson plan? And then the objective. In EDU 3010, you learned how to write objectives the way Warner wants you to. Remember, you take the standard and you break it down into the audience, so it's going to be the students will be able to. You'll do the behavioral verb section, exactly what from the standard you'll be teaching. What is the condition? Remember, the condition is how you will test them. Will it be here it states a math journal? It could be a quiz. It could be an exit ticket. And the degree is the level of mastery. So please make sure when you are completing the objective statement, you are writing it as Warner expects. Content outline, I'm not going to worry too much about this. You can leave it blank if you want. The assessment section. The assessment is two-part. Every lesson plan needs a formative assessment and a summative. So, if you remember, a formative assessment is something that the students are doing while you are teaching the lesson. So the formative assessment might be when you give them a graphic organizer and they're completing it with a partner. So if you list here that the students will be completing a T-chart based on the information, I need to see the T-chart in this section. So remember, you have to put a copy of the assessment in this section. A summative is what you're going to give the students to see if they have mastered the skill. So a summative could be an exit ticket. It could be a written summary of the graphic organizer that they did for the formative assessment. So a summative is done at the end of the lesson. This tells the teacher if they understood the standard being taught or if they need to go back and reteach the next day. So let's remember, in this section, you need a formative and a summative assessment for each lesson. Now, I've stated in the news forum different types of each one. It doesn't always have to be a quiz or a test. So please take time to look at the different types of assessments. Students get tired of tests. They get tired of thinking they're always being graded. Okay, it doesn't always have to be a big grade. It just needs to be something so that the teacher knows if the lesson was effective and taught the standard, or if the teacher needs to go back and reteach. Technical materials, that's where you're going to list the items that you're going to need. Okay, here you're always going to need a copy of the text for each student, so that's going to be one. Vocabulary. This part is important for this lesson because you need to select the words that the students need to learn for this text. Please, no more than 10. Research says students need to be limited to 8 to 10 for mastery. You can expose the students to as many as you want, but for mastery it needs to stay between 8 and 10. Please make sure you remember that these are 5th grade students. So for instance, if you want to put the word White House for vocabulary, let's hope by the 5th grade they already know and understand what the White House means in social studies. So make sure that they're grade appropriate. In this section, the vocabulary words will stay the same on all 5 lesson plans. So once you put them here, you can copy and paste it for every lesson plan that you write here on out. Please make sure that the vocabulary words, you list the word and the definition that you're expecting. We ask you to do this because some words have multiple meanings, and we need to know that the definition is appropriate for the text. So in the vocabulary section, you need to list the word and the definition. In the multiple intelligence section, this is the same as what you did in EDU 3010. you look at what the students are going to be doing for the lesson and include the multiple intelligences. The anticipatory set. This is an activity where you're going to get the students excited about what they're going to be learning. Since this is the first of 5 lesson plans on the same content area, you might show a video introducing them to the topic that they're going to be learning. Now that's only going to work for the first lesson plan. After this, the anticipatory set needs to be a short, quick assignment activity that the students can complete to get their minds activated back to the topic that's being taught. All right, so this is the big part of the lesson plan. In each section, introduction, practicing, expanding, and closure. These parts of the lesson plan are what I call the teaching sections. These parts need to be very specific. I need exactly what the teacher's going to say and what the students are expected to do. In education, the more time you take planning, the better the lessons will be. So in this course, we're trying to teach you how to think through a lesson. What are you going to say exactly? What are you going to do exactly? What are you going to show exactly? I know in the real world of education, you don't have to be this detailed, but this is the learning process. You need to make sure that you're thinking through exactly how the lesson is going to go. The more time you take planning, the better lessons are going to be when you are in front of the students. So the introduction is just that. You're introducing new knowledge. This is where you're going to introduce, for this lesson, the vocabulary words. How are you going to introduce them? Are you going to show the word and ask the students to get with a partner and come up with what they think the word means? Are you going to use context clues? In vocabulary, teaching context clues is huge. That's where the student can read the text and they use the information around a word to determine its meaning. So if you're going to use context clues, this is the part where you introduce that skill. So you're introducing the words, you're introducing the skill of context clues. When you get down here, it's this. They're practicing the skill. So this is the part where you may have them with a partner work on the skill of context clues. So you may have the students find the words in the text, read the paragraph that it's in, and with a partner determine how the word can be defined based on the information around the word. This part, expanding, this part is where they need to do this independently. So maybe they did 2 or 3 of the words up here with a partner, and then down here they're starting to work independently. So you're trying to gradually teach them how to do this on their own. So the introduction is where the teacher walks them through how to use the skill. Here they have the knowledge of a partner that can help them learn how to use the skill. And then in the expanding, this is where they need to do it independently, because when they are testing, when they are reading on their own, they're going to have to be able to use the skill by themselves. So it's a gradual release. You do it with the whole group, they do it with a partner, and then they do it independently. And then the last part, this is the part where you can put the summative assessment. This is where you, as the teacher, need to know if all of the students learned how to use the skill. This portion has to be done independently. You don't know if a student knows how to do the skill on their own unless they are assessed on their own. So please make sure the closure is where you are doing some type of summative assessment figuring out who learned how to do the skill and who didn't. In a classroom, this is be where the teacher maybe pulls a small group the next day because maybe 5 of the students didn't understand or didn't quite grasp the concept of the skill. So the closure is very important. The closure should be connected to the assessment section. The formative assessment can be taking place in the practicing section or the expanding section. So remember, this has to be very specific and very detailed. And if you complete this entire lesson plan in about 30 minutes, I'm guessing that it won't be specific enough. When I read these lesson plans, I'm reading them as if I were a substitute. A substitute should be able to pick up this lesson plan and follow it exactly. The formative assessment is listed, and so is the summative. The teaching sections list exactly what is to be said and what is to be done by the teacher and the student. So when you are looking back over a completed lesson plan, look at it through the eyes of a substitute, because that's what I do. So to recap, this week you are doing vocabulary. This section, there's a document listed on the Moodle site in week 3 to help you fill this out. Do not leave it blank. Accommodations have to be completed as you did in EDU 3010. Very specific. Remember, the ESOL section has 5 different components. The purpose statement, why are you teaching this lesson? The objective has to be done in the style that Warner expects. Go back to your 3010 information if you need to. Assessments, you have to include a copy of the summative and the formative. So if you're using a graphic organizer, put me a copy of it. If you're using an exit ticket for the summative, put a copy of it here. Technical, everything you're going to need for this one specific lesson. 1 is going to be the text. 2 might be the graphic organizer, whatever you're going to need. Vocabulary, listed and defined. Multiple intelligences, go back to your EDU 3010. There's also a lot of information online about the 6 intelligences. Anticipatory set. How are you going to get the students excited about what they're learning that day? And then you have the 4 teaching sections, which I've gone over. So it's a big week. Very important that you get a grasp of it this week, because you're going to be doing a lesson plan, 1 lesson plan each week. So I have lots of resources on here. Be sure to look at all of them. I see that I still have the 9-12 on here. Don't worry about those. We're doing the 5th grade. Most of your introductions stated that you would be interested in doing elementary versus high school. That's why I lowered the level of the text to 5th grade. So please ask questions if you need to. Look at the resources. Please read the news forum. If you go back to the top of the Moodle site, I have the news forum here. The information in the news forum goes live earlier than the videos, but you can open this up. Okay, I'm going to give you samples. I'm going to give you information. Please read this first. And then I have put a folder here for the videos. So all of the videos are going to be in one section now. So here's week 1 video, week 2 video, which you really won't need now because we've completed those assignments. But I will post this video in that section. So please make sure you read those. I do check to make sure that you are watching the videos and reading the news forums. So I hope that will help with the lesson plans. Please don't email me your lesson plan and have me check to see if it is what I'm looking for. If you read the news forum and you watch the videos, you should not have any problem completing the lesson plan. If you need ideas, feel free to contact me. I have lots of ideas. I've taught just about every grade level, and I'll be glad to give you ideas or samples or those kind of things. So that is week 3. It's a big week. If you get the handle on how to write the first one, the next 4 lesson plans won't be that difficult at all. But it usually seems like the very first lesson plan creates a problem. So if you need to go back to your information in EDU 3010 and look at the lesson plans that were created in weeks, I believe it was 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, look over those lesson plans. They should be very similar to what you're creating now. So I'm glad everyone survived the week of Hurricane Dorian, and some of us got a few extra days off. So please work on this. As you have probably noticed, once again, I am very efficient at scoring things as soon as they're submitted. If you submit them early, I'll grade them early. I spend Sundays looking over both courses assignments. So let me know if you have any questions. Remember, if you text me or email me, please put the course number that you're in. So I hope that's helpful, and let me know if you have any questions. Have a great week.